And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked and those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That is how the land was given to them. The picture is now so clear to me that all of this, like that became the litmus test, right? For these people who were so behind this radical effort to make Americans think you cannot question anything Israel does. The ultimate litmus test for that, to make sure that you had Christians in check, to make sure that the Spirit of Christ would not come over them, that a Christian would not say, hey, it actually isn't okay to murder innocent women and children for 2 years. And to justify this, it's unjustifiable. And so what is the last argument Israel uses? We're God's chosen. This was the litmus test of the God's chosen. Okay, do you get what I'm saying here? Like, we are so chosen that when it defies common sense, when it is so obviously wrong, so obviously murderous, so obviously immoral, and amoral, and it is so obviously demonic, what we're going to throw at you is, well, we're God's chosen. And so we need good little Christians to get in line. And the best way to test that is to tell them that, anti-Semitism is so crazy and so out of control leading up to this Iran war, which is unjustifiable and is murderous and is awful and is demonic, that even saying Christ is king, you guys can say it. No, we're good with that. It's fine. But you can admit that sometimes that could be a little fringe. Again, I look at that, trying to declare that as a form of the dark tetrad or whatever was the dark triad, and psychopaths who are occupying the fringes are taking over to obtain power. I now look at that in retrospect and recognize that no, it was psychopaths that were trying to obtain power and were going through this ridiculous route to do it. And they were looking at Christians for a reason. Because if you are a real Christian, you cannot justify what is happening in Gaza. You can't. You can't. You cannot justify giving this nation a carte blanche to annex, as they are about to do in the West Bank, at the behest of Miriam Adelson, for them to rape soldiers, not even to rape soldiers, to rape detainees who they say they can hold on to forever. You cannot consistently keep justifying what Israel has done and is doing. And that is what overcame me. It is obviously the Spirit of Christ to understand that you can't keep doing this. You can't murder children and put it in a box and say that that's what God wants. That's just stupid beyond anything else. That's stupid. Okay? So spare me your theology. Give me your common sense. That's dumb. It is dumb to suggest that murdering children is what God wants. And that's what they've been doing. And they needed good little Christians to get in line. So they need to figure out which ones wouldn't. And along came Candace Owens. Oh my gosh, we'll have to do a report. And then the other Christians will see they shouldn't declare Christ is king. Christ is king, buddy. We're saying it now. We're saying it forever. And we see what you're doing, because all of these people were also aligned with radical Zionism. And it's always been radical. The irony that they say people in Iran are fanatical, right? Oh my gosh, guys, you understand? This is how scary these Islamists can get. It's fanatic. The faith is fanatic. At the same time, justifying Zionism, which is at its core an ideology that says that because we're God's chosen, we can murder and take and steal whatever we want. It at the same time says the United Nations gave us this land, but also ignore the United Nations and the ICC because they now think that we're murderous and crazy. The logic is just, it's unbelievable. It's all over the place. They can't streamline it because none of it makes sense. Yesterday, Israel has a right to defend itself. Today, Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself because it's a preemptive strike. So they have a right to both strike and to defend themselves, and nobody can do anything unless risk being called an anti-Semite. I'm done with that. I'd like to wrap that party up. And by the way, I want to say this to you guys because many of you are waking up and you are perhaps on the same journey that I have been on for the last 2 years, looking around and going, what is this? Because I used to be a Zionist because I just never understood really what they were doing. I was baptized by, the public school, the public school education, which is teaching us nothing but to be brainwashed. Hollywood movies, which, like I said, made us always feel like no matter what, make sure you defend Jewish people. They could never do anything wrong. And what really became a turning point for me was recognizing that I didn't even know the beginning of the 1948 story. I had assumed that the world would have been moral enough so as, even if the United Nations and the UK determined via the Balfour Declaration that, hey, war happens and now we're giving this and we're establishing Israel, I had assumed that they would have done that morally, that they would have said, here is the money for the home that you have lived in for thousands of years, the property that you have lived in. Here is money for that, but you have to go. That's not what happened. I mean, the Bella Hadid story is stunning. These people came on ships holding up signs about World War II saying, please, we're refugees, let us into your home. And the Palestinians opened their doors to them. This is the story of Muhammad Hadid and Bella Hadid. Yeah, the model, Gigi Hadid. He was an infant. His mother had just given birth. They allowed these refugees, these Polish refugees, to live in their homes as refugees because they wanted to help them following a world war. And then one day they came back to their houses and the doors were locked. They came home, the doors were locked, and guns were being held, and they were told, leave right now, or some soldiers are going to come murder you. Do you guys understand? Just go through that in your head. Wherever it is that you live right now in the world, imagine your family has lived on that land for hundreds and hundreds of years. That this has been your home for hundreds of years. And then you say, oh, you know what? The Ukrainian war is happening right now. I feel really bad. I'm going to allow a Ukrainian to live in my house, maybe here in Tennessee, live in my house. And you allow them and you share with them. And you do this out of the kindness of your heart, right? Because you are being taken over, perhaps by the Spirit of Christ and charity. And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked. And those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That is how the land was given to them. That is a fact. No one can dispute that. There was no money. There was no trade. There was no conversation. They were effectively hijacked in their own homes. So the entire story of Israel has been immoral, okay? And it has really hinged upon our ignorance. We have all been ignorant, and it's time to stop. Because once you know the truth, now it is your burden to carry, okay? If you are truly ignorant and you support something, as I did, back when I was a Zionist, hitting the ground, talking about Israel, tweeting about Israel and how we must support Israel, then that's okay. That's going to be acceptable because one day we're all going to have to account before our Creator. I have to hope that that is going to be acceptable, that it was truly ignorance and I believed that I was doing the right thing. But you now know this is not the right thing. And if you keep doing that, thing out of fear, all right, out of, a jerk knee reaction because you're scared of being canceled. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be you when you meet your maker. I wouldn't want to be you when you have to stand before the Lord and account for what you allowed to take place because those children are dying. They are being burned to death. Had been carpet bombed. The access to those images, it's at your fingertips. And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail, Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. It should just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do. God's chosen people were, as it was prophesied, Christ was going to come. God's chosen people, it was prophesied. And guess what they did when Christ came? They followed him. And at the moment that you followed Christ and became a Christian, you didn't become unchosen. Christians are the chosen people because Christians, real Christians, not the ones who have been baptized in the liturgy of the Holocaust and are defending these demonic actions, but the ones who are willing to take being maimed and caricatured and smeared and lied about to say something that is true, which is that we're not pro-life sometime, okay? We're pro-life all the time. Life is precious, and murder is never okay. Yeah, I think that it should be abundantly obvious at this moment in time, at this moment in history, who God's chosen actually are. And it ain't the Polish Bibi Netanyahu. If there's ever been to me any person that I would say most clearly represents the synagogue of Satan, it would be that man and maybe Rabbi Shmuley, who, by the way, they're all in locked up now, you know, Rabbi Shmuley. If you're a team Rabbi Shmuley and you think you're on the good side, you may want to reevaluate your life. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic.